Hi, my name's Phil and welcome to LabourVision, where we discuss some aspect of Labour policy. And this week, Labour were going along two lines, the social contract and crime levels. But as crime is the most likely to feature in conversations during political campaigns, let's take a little look at that. So before we go over Labour's promises, let's look at how this is playing in the political arena. This isn't just election year for Westminster, but for the highest profile elected mayoral race as well, London. The Tories are currently attacking Labour's Sadiq Khan for presiding over a rising crime, whilst claiming that crime is falling across England and Wales under the Conservative government. But is this even true? So let's look at the England and Wales figures first, because there are more data points I want to look at. With the references I've linked below, I'm able to go back to 2003. Now, Labour had been in power for 6 years at this point, but there were just under 6 million crimes recorded that year. By 2010, when they left office, it had dropped to less than 4.5 million. So a drop of over 27% in their final 7 years. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Over the next 5 years with Labour in opposition, the number of recorded crimes fell by a further 4%. Now, 4% over 5 years doesn't sound quite as impressive as 27% over 7 years, but maybe you think crime was at a pretty low ebb and Labour would have done no better in this time. But these were the coalition years. So presumably when the Tories took over all government positions, including the Home Office, they would have either maintained those low levels or seen further reductions, wouldn't they? I mean, they are the party of law and order, after all. You can sense the sarcasm in me, can't you? In actual fact, the number of crimes recorded rose by over 2.5 million since. This is an increase of over 61% compared to their first year as a sole party of government, and a 55% increase compared with when Labour were in power. But this is odd, isn't it? Because the government are claiming that crime has fallen. Yeah, they tend to tell the odd fib now and then. The Conservatives are claiming that crime is falling by leaving out certain types of crime, such as fraud, which is the number one crime in the country. The Office for National Statistics are always telling them off for this. So what about London then? Well, Khan became mayor in 2016. So since then, the number of crimes recorded has indeed risen, as the Conservatives claim. It's risen by 19%, which is what they're also claiming. But it's risen by 19% when the average increase in crimes recorded in England and Wales as a whole during exactly the same period has increased by 49%. Now, the Mayor of London has oversight over London policing to an extent, but the Home Office is also the ultimate power. But there's little need to try and unpick which aspects of policing in London are down to the Mayor and which ones are down to the Home Office at a time when crime has increased by 49% in England and Wales. Crime has increased by 19% in London, a much slower rate of increase. And what might we see in 5 years' time, particularly in 10 years' time, if both the Mayor of London and Home Secretary are Labour politicians? Because if crime falls in both England and Wales and London at the same time, I think we can put to bed this notion that the Tories care about law and order. After all, the last Labour government reduced crime figures, the Tories increased it. If we have another Labour government lowering them again, then just as with NHS waiting lists, we're going to see some interesting graphs to show the public about the reality versus rhetoric. So anyway, what is Labour's plans to tackle crime then? Well, this rise in crime under the Tories coincided with a number of missteps, but not the least of which was in getting rid of over 20,000 police officers. Now, the Tories have now restored the old numbers, although because the population's grown, it's still smaller per capita. But those officers are currently inexperienced and in some cases had failed selection first time round, so may not be entirely suitable. But the numbers are sort of back to where they were now after over 10 years have been massively slashed. But on top of the replenished staffing, Labour are promising to recruit an additional 13,000 neighbourhood police in order to increase the number of patrols again. They've set a specific target of halving the levels of violence against women and girls within 10 years. That's a hell of a drop, and it means there's going to have to be a specific focus on it. Now, to help achieve that, they're going to set up specialist domestic abuse centres in 999 control rooms and make sure every police force in England and Wales has specialist rape investigation units. Labour have also said they'll get police to use counter-terrorism methods to target repeat offenders. Labour also have policies to deal with prevention, because when the Conservatives, where they always go wrong is like the focus is always on punishment, crime and punishment, crime and punishment. So when crimes are committed, it's much more costly to just punish than it was to prevent in the first place. And because the Tories are so tight, then they don't even supply the prisons and the police to do that either. But it is wasteful. It's wasteful of people's lives apart from anything else, when we should be trying to prevent crime where we can. And Labour are going to focus on mental health in the young with local services designed to help young people early. They'll also be boosting numbers in the criminal justice system. Right now, it can take several years for many cases, even of violent crimes, to come to court, which means years of life-changing damage to innocent people who are ultimately acquitted, and years of anguish for genuine victims, as the perpetrators are more likely to get away with it the longer a trial has to wait, because the victims may not be able to go through with it. And as any expert will say, and they frequently do, the effectiveness of a deterrent is based on someone's perception of how likely they are to face punishment. If someone doesn't believe they'll be caught and punished, there is no deterrent, because they don't think they're going to fall into it. So they have to believe that if they commit this act, they're going to be caught and they're going to be punished. With the criminal justice system close to collapse, with ministers having had to tell judges not to sentence anyone to prison a couple of months ago because there was no room, criminals have never had it so good. And the numbers, the real numbers, will be the litmus test. Because right now, where the Tories run things, crime has increased at a breathtaking rate. We know it went down under the last Labour government. If it goes down under the next Labour government as well, that's pretty strong evidence for which party is actually the party of law and order. But there we are. I hope you found the video interesting and maybe a useful conversation piece if you come across anyone claiming that crime has gone down under the Tories, particularly if it's a Conservative candidate. Don't forget to click the like button and subscribe for further content. Until next time, I'll see you later.